I've always had an overactive imagination. I learned from my dad the sort of sadistic pleasure that comes from convincing people of ridiculous, impossible things. Growing up, I thought life was pretty boring. So, to make it more interesting, I made up elaborate stories about everything. I made believe that aliens or monsters would come abduct me at night. I even convinced myself I'd seen a flying saucer once. I also made up stories about my parents' secret lives they'd had before I was born. The real story, though, is actually pretty normal. My parents met in college. They spent their younger years going to costume parties together and spending the rest of their time at zoos. At least, that's always what I saw in the family's films they showed me. My mother's father was in the military. He lived in Japan for a while, spending his free time being offensive to the locals. Later, when he came back to America, he met my grandmother and they started a family. He worked while she stayed at home, raising their kids and playing with the pets. My mother really liked animals when she was growing up, and she wanted to be a dancer. My father's father was really into hunting. I like to think that one day the moose decided to fight back, but in reality, when he was about 40, he became crazy and he had to be institutionalized. After that happened, my father and his mother ended up moving in with family. He spent his childhood digging up gooey ducks, and his dream was to become a deep-sea diver. I never met any of my father's family, but I've seen a lot of films. All I can really tell is that his grandmother liked to stand unnervingly still in large gardens. I really wish I'd met that side of my family, because they all seem pretty weird. I just moved into a new apartment recently, and I've been having difficulty sleeping. Just like when I was younger, I keep waking up at night thinking that I hear something or that there's someone in my room. It's been making me think a lot about growing up, and so I decided to go through all the family films I have. Watching them again has reminded me of the stories I created as a kid. The imaginary version of my parents' lives was much more interesting than the one in the films. At a young age, I decided that they had met in the jungle. My dad was studying alligators, and my mom was learning the dances of the wild birds. They instantly fell in love and moved back to Washington State because they wanted to find the Sasquatch. They spent a little while working as secret agents and fighting crime, but in the end, they could never really give up their dreams. It was too late for my dad to become a diver, so instead he became the next best thing, which was definitely a SEAL trainer. And my mom, tired of trying to dance like a bird, became a professional ice skater. Eventually they had kids, and they decided to keep all of this a secret from us so we wouldn't feel like we'd missed out on anything. I never really believed this myth that I created, but I definitely liked it better than the truth. When I got older, I forgot about all of the stories. I even kind of forgot about my fear of monsters. But recently I've been thinking about my childhood and my family and my fascination with the imaginary again, and I don't know, I guess just some things are kind of making more sense now.